Welcome back. Now, headlines today has accessed the details of Prime Minister's itinerary during his three-day visit to China. The Prime Minister will hold restricted talks with President Xi Jinping on the 14th of May. On the same night, the Prime Minister will attend a dinner hosted by the President in his hometown of Xi'an. Prime Minister will then head to Beijing, where there will be delegation-level talks with the Premier. Another highlight of the Prime Minister's visit will be his address at the University of Beijing. After his action-packed Beijing pit stop, Modi will then depart to Shanghai. The last day of his visit will see a big focus on investment. The Prime Minister will have a meeting with 10 to 20 top Chinese CEOs. The last thing on Modi's China itinerary is his Indian community reception in Shanghai. Smita Sharma now joins us for more. Smita, this is quite an action-packed itinerary.
Absolutely. In fact, the Prime Minister's office is very keen that this should be converted into a trip which provides for unique, in fact, photo opportunities to visual imagery. And the Chinese also really, going that way, going that extra way, in fact, to ensure that the way Xi Jinping, in fact, was welcomed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he was in India last September, that it is reciprocated. Remember those visuals of Xi Jinping and the First Lady on the swing, and of course Prime Minister Narendra Modi then taking that walk along the Sabarmati River banks. Those kind of visuals, in fact, will be reciprocated when the Prime Minister kicks off his China leg of the three-nation tour, in fact, from Xi Jinping's home province of Shaanxi, where they will be visiting Xi'an, which in fact is a former capital of Imperial China, but today boasts of a lot of industrial, in fact, capacity. There are those which, that visit to the Terracotta Warriors Museum. It's called a museum city. In fact, Xi'an is called a museum city of northeast China, really. There is the Wild Goose Pagoda visit. There will be, of course, handing over a Bodhi tree sapling as well, and a visit to City Wall. So there will be glimpses of history and also talks about the way forward in the bilateral relations, both in those talks with the President Xi Jinping, who is really the power authority, as well as the structured dialogue with the Chinese Premier Li Keqiang in Beijing. Sanket?
That's right. Now, Smita, if you could tell us a little about, this particular trip, apart from the fact that Narendra Modi is visiting, our Prime Minister is visiting the village of the Chinese President, and also the fact that there is a address to the Indian gathering. Is this really an event which is very different from how diplomacy is conducted between India and China, or has been conducted in the past?
Well, it's different in the sense that for the first time, there's a departure from protocol for the Chinese president to be really, going to his hometown to receive a visiting world leader. This has not been done by the Chinese earlier, but the Chinese also are reaching out to India because at the center stage of this relationship really is economy. Markets that matter to both of them, markets that both of them want to access really. And that's why in Shanghai, in fact, Prime Minister has that meeting first thing in the morning on 16th of May with 10 to 20 CEOs of major Chinese companies, including, personalities like, of course, Jack Ma, who launched that revolutionary enterprise, the e-commerce site called Alibaba. So it is going to be a power-packed meeting with the CEOs. But in terms of MOUs and agreements, will something much more come out? Not really, in terms of boundary resolution, we're not expecting something concrete to come out. There is that structured dialogue process which is on. The special representatives, in fact, had a meeting in Delhi just a few weeks back. In terms of agreements, we saw a couple of agreements inked to the tune of $20 billion when Xi Jinping was in India. But the Chinese really want to come into the high-speed railways sector of India, the bullet train sector of India, where India is really a little wary about Chinese coming in. They would rather prefer the Japanese to come in with their investments because there are lesser security apprehensions, the Japanese engineers operating in India. So, it's that kind of an approach. And similarly, the Indian IT firms are seeking a greater access to Chinese markets. It is really the economy that is driving this relationship despite all the contentious problems, which is why we will see that focus, in fact, is something which we have seen as a signature style in most of Mr. Modi's trips so far, Saket.